PowKiddy X55 is as interesting a device as the company's name. Seriously, what does PowKiddy even mean? Anyway, a lot of people seem to think that this is the best handheld emulator under $100, and I don't know about that. Let's start with comfort, because that's pretty important to me. If you saw my Miyoo Mini Plus video, then you know I'm glad this thing is bigger. But I can palm a basketball, and I would be showing you that if I knew where my basketball was. I bought a ball after that video. This is really hard to get in frame. It's a pretty decent size, but not Steam Deck big. It's about the size of a Switch Lite, but not a flat rectangle. While the grips aren't huge, they definitely help with comfort alongside the slightly angled sides, which is great for comfortably using all of the controls. We should probably talk about the buttons though. We get a full controller's worth of buttons here. 4 face buttons, a D-pad, 2 sticks, bumpers and triggers, and start and select. We also have volume up and down that are oddly separated, and in my opinion are on the wrong sides. It's just a little thing, but we'll talk more about sound later. But all 4 of those buttons are very loud and clicky. Same thing with the bumpers and triggers. They're solid, but they're loud, and if you couldn't tell, these are not analog triggers. But other than that, I have no problems with these buttons. While we're up here, I should mention that there is a reset button opposite our power button. This will fully restart the entire console. It's not an in-game reset. Up here, there are also 2 USB-C ports, a headphone jack, and a mini HDMI out. This USB-C is for charging only, and it is very slow charging. It takes like 3 or 4 hours to get a full charge. And you cannot use a C-to-C cable or any fast charging bricks. Just 5 volt, 1.5 amp little bricks. The battery life is about 6 hours of playtime, which means you're going to be charging almost as much as you play. Sleep mode is great though. It's really snappy and it doesn't drain much battery while sleeping, even while a game is paused. There's also Bluetooth for more controllers and Wi-Fi if you care about that. The headphone jack will give you cleaner audio, but the speakers aren't bad. The annoying part is the significant delay while adjusting the volume, and the fact that the volume indicator doesn't show up while in-game. Also, the HDMI out is glitchy to say the least. And it is the device, it's not the cable, I swear. I've tried a few different ways and I know that cable is good. Anyway, I got distracted. The face buttons are the Nintendo style, which doesn't bother me, but the insane travel distance does. They are very tall buttons, so it makes it hard to hold down a button like B to run and roll over to press A to jump. The height makes it hard to just quick press it, and I keep letting Mario die. The poor guy only has 3 lives. The sticks, on the other hand, are the complete opposite. I still don't like them, but it's because they're sunken in. I understand because it's a portable device and the sticks won't stick out as much. I can't find a better word, but I just really don't like it. Your thumbs aren't always going to be perfectly centered on the sticks, so you will be touching the plastic around it and rubbing up against the other buttons near it. It's annoying. The D-pad isn't bad, but it could be better. And as much as I like the stick placement here, I wish the D-pad swapped spots with the left stick. While this can technically play N64, PS1, and PSP games, they don't run as well as I was hoping. So I'd rather have the D-pad up top for all the stickless games that run flawlessly. And on that note, this screen should have been 4x3, because PSP is the only 16:9 console that can run on here, and it doesn't even run well. Let's just start talking about performance. Every console from the 16-bit era and down runs flawlessly on here. Your GBs, your GBAs, your NESs, and your SNESs are all great. Sega and them too. I literally 16-bit and down, people. Come on. Pixel graphics, great. Also, I haven't had any problems with DS games other than the fact that this isn't a touchscreen. It's really only the joystick consoles that are giving me performance issues. And from here on out, you're gonna have to mess around with some settings to get decent to playable performance. I just have the CPU governor set to performance for everything now. I think it's like an overclock or just is an overclock. I don't really know. This is the first time I've ever heard the word governor used outside of state politics. But just like in politics, changing governors didn't really seem to help my situation. You're most likely going to want to enable frame skip and try out other cores to find the best performance for certain games. If you haven't noticed, there are 2 microSD card slots at the bottom. One for the OS and the other for all of your games. Mine came loaded with just enough Linux and a bunch of pirated games on 2 generic cards. So I swapped both out for some better name brand cards, updated to the latest firmware, and loaded up my ROMs. And everything immediately felt snappier. I wonder if games run better. Let's try playing... What is that? So yeah, RetroArch doesn't look right anymore, but I think that's my biggest problem with this device. I don't mind Linux, but I just really don't like RetroArch. The menus confuse me, I can never find what I'm looking for, and it never goes as smoothly as I'd like. I love tinkering with hardware, but I am not a software guy. So I'm just going to swap back to the original OS card because I have no idea how to fix this acid trip that RetroArch is on. Let's get back to performance. PS1 seems to run pretty well once you find a core that will allow it to boot. I don't have a ton of PS1 games, but I didn't run into too many problems other than load times. They're just a little longer than expected. I also couldn't get the sticks to work on the PS1 games that needed them. I have no idea. N64 games mostly run decent, but hitches a little bit. Some of the harder to run games like Conker's Bad Fur Day might not be fun to play on here. The Dreamcast will run fairly well, not amazing, but I'd say most games are playable. Let's try PSP. Okay, but for real, more basic games will play okay with frame skip enabled, but your God of Wars will not. Unless you think this is playable, I really just don't recommend playing PSP at all on here. And technically you can boot GameCube games, but yeah, just don't. Now do you understand why I want the D-pad up top and the screen to not be 16:9? I think I would have been a lot happier with the X55 if PowKiddy pitched it as a 2D handheld that also dabbles a little in 3D, because this is not built for 3D out of the box, even though the look says otherwise. Instead, I got all excited about a device under $100 that could handle N64, Dreamcast, and PSP just to be disappointed with the performance. I'd still say it's a pretty decent buy for that $100 sweet spot, and I enjoyed playing it more than the hand-crampingly small Miyoo Mini. Also, I gotta mention this since I just watched Bob Wolf's review after recording all this. I thought I was going crazy, but he seemed to have this experience too. I swear the first day I was messing around with this, I had perfect Dreamcast support. Like, Crazy Taxi ran beautifully. And now it's like hitching and slow down and all this stuff. I don't get it. And it happened with a couple other games too. Like one day it was running better than the next. Maybe don't get this. I don't know. I'm just glad I'm not the one trying to sell them. Which, by the way, the person who sent this to me was kind of rude, but I will leave their link in the description because they did send this to me for free for review. However, you should buy this from PowKiddy directly so you can actually buy this for under $100. I'll leave their link down below too. So what do you think? Is this the best handheld emulator under $100? Let me know in those comments down below. Also, a like and subscribe while you're down there would be greatly appreciated. So like, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Later, guys. Ooh, this isn't supposed to be like this. It would be kind of fun to hold the microphone though, just not with a giant arm attached to it. We good, homie? There we go.